Jews, namely a man by the name of Amram, married to a woman by the name of Yocheved, at the time of the height of the Egyptian threat of genocide of the Jewish people. Pharaoh wanted to kill all the boys. He wanted to destroy the girls spiritually, even the women, even a worse punishment than he was giving to the men. And the Torah says in the beginning of the book of Exodus that Amram and Yocheved had a child, and the Torah says that his child was born, and she saw that it was good. What does it mean that she saw that it was good? Rashi, main Torah commentator, tells us that at the moment that Moses came into the world, the entire home of Moses' parents radiated an incredible amount of light. His parents saw that there was something very special with this child who was born, and Yocheved, being the incredible, caring, and loving woman she was, she understood that this baby is not just your ordinary baby. He has a very special task. And she hid him in the basket on the river, and we know the story. We know the story how Batya, the daughter of Pharaoh, came to bathe on the banks of the river, and she heard the sound of a crying baby. And that is right there one of the many lessons that we learn from that beginning of that story, how Batya, being the daughter of Pharaoh, could have said to herself, listen, there's a crying baby. There are many crying babies in this world. What can we do about it? But she didn't do that. Batya stretched out her arm and brought that basket with a baby in it, and that one act of her stretching out her arm entirely changed the course of history for the Jewish people and brought us here tonight. Because Batya is the one who rescued Moses from the river. She is the one who named him Moshe, as the Torah says, and Moshe went on to become the first and the stereotypical leader of the Jewish people. Our sages tell us in the Zohar, the Bible of Jewish mysticism, that just like Jewish history began 3,332 years ago, this coming Pesach, this coming Wednesday, with the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt being led by Moses, the Zohar talks about what is known in Aramaic, Itpashtuta de Moshe bechol dara v'dara, a spreading forth of the leading role, the leading figure of Moshe in every generation, my friends. For the last 3,300 years, if you go through, and I'm not going to go through the whole period, if you go through many different parts of history, of Jewish history, Moses, after Moses was Joshua, we go on to Jewish history. We have a holiday that we just recently celebrated, the holiday of Purim, when there was an evil Haman that wanted to annihilate the entire Jewish nation, and the Jewish nation didn't know where to turn. And our sages tell us that Mordechai bedoro kemoshe bedoro. Mordechai and Esther, of course, in their generation, were like Moses in his generation. We overcame the threat of Haman thanks to the leaders of that generation, the Jewish leaders, which were Mordechai and Esther, who inspired thousands of young children, boys and girls, young men and women, to remain steadfast in their commitment and their faith to God. And that is what helped them overcome the threat of Haman. We go with the story of Hanukkah, where once again we had a terrible enemy who wanted to destroy the entire Jewish nation, and things again looked bleak, terrible. Where are we going to turn? And there too, we had a great Jewish leader by the name of Judah Maccabee, who was responsible in instilling faith in the Jewish people, in believing in none other than in God and in themselves. And by believing in themselves, he reassured them that it would ultimately overcome the scary threat of what was happening in their days. And so, friends, if we go on, every single generation in Jewish history, there seems to always have been an evil threat, an enemy of the Jewish people. And there's always been a leader, which was mentioned before. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai refers to in the Zohar as Itpashtuta de Moshe Bechol Dara V'Dara, a spreading forth of the figure of Moses, our leader, the first leader of the Jewish people, a figure, a towering figure like Moses in every generation. Friends, on Yud Alef Nissan, on the 11th of Nissan, today, in the year 1902, another great soul entered this world. And that is the soul of the Rebbe. The Rebbe was born on the 11th of Nissan in 1902. And the Rebbe grew up, and the Rebbe demonstrated, ever since he was a little child in Cheder, an extraordinary degree of care and concern and love for a fellow person, no matter who or she they are. The Rebbe came to America after he married the daughter of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, his father-in-law. The Rebbe came to America, and in 1950, the Rebbe's father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, passed away. Think about this, 1950, 5 years after the liberation of the concentration camps in Europe, the extermination camps of Auschwitz, and the Rebbe took the leadership of Chabad Lubavitch in 1950 and pledged to transform Judaism not back to what it was prior to World War II, but a lot stronger than that. The Rebbe was going to rebuild Judaism in spite of the fact that the Rebbe himself lost many family members in the Holocaust. The Rebbe pledged that he was going to rebuild Judaism into the strongest form that it has ever been in its history. 1950, 2020, 70 years later, we are here today with thousands of Jews, millions of Jews all over the world. Here in Utah, in the Far East, in Israel, of course, in Europe, South America, North America, all over the world, that were brought back home where they belonged all along, thanks to the dedication and the love, first and foremost, the love that the Rebbe felt for every single individual, no matter where he or she may come from, what skin color they may have, what kind of background they have, religious, non-religious, Orthodox, non-Orthodox, simply loving every single person. That is why we're here tonight, because we're living probably, I would say, some of the most difficult times in the history of the world. Think about it for a moment. When did the world experience a plague like COVID-19, where people are dying, thousands and thousands of people are dying every single day, and we don't know where to turn? And some of us become dejected, discouraged, depressed, and foreign thoughts start entering our minds. And so allow me to please ask my son Chaim, who's here as my IT person tonight, if you would please play for us this evening the recording of an address of a speech that the Rebbe gave today on the 11th of Nisan in the year 1982, 38 years ago today, where the Rebbe saw this very coronavirus happening, 38 years. And the Rebbe said in his address that God forbid we may be the recipients of a terrible plague, and we have to be prepared for it. But as the Rebbe says in his address, before God sends a problem to this world, God sends the solution to this world. Please watch this video with me for a moment.
Ist verstandig mit Pastus, als fällt, und kommt zu Rahman al-Islam Achili, Chodesh, was keinmal nicht gewähnt, als Machle Rahman al-Islam. Ist sichere Sache, wir können jetzt sein, mit der Refuis, was man genutzt, Nächten und Nächten mit der Däche Liefnisse, wie bald das Mach, Cheli, Chodesh, muss man ausgefunden, der Fuhrchadosho, muss sichere Sache, mit suchen, wird sicher gefunden, warum der Rebischter hat eingestellte Welt, als mag dem Refuhr, Lemako, noch jeder, ist gekommen, nach Cheli, Chodesh, Achman al-Islam, ist schön gekommen, Lemato, der Fuhrchadosho. Warum das kommt, Wegen von Magdim, mit darf nur haben, der, was hat die Schlichus und den Schuss, als Fan geht, der Rappe, soll sich nicht stadel sein, bis mal Jekier, war nicht das Verhindern, gefunden, der Fuhr-Chadosha, und wusste wissen, in was für ein Leben, und in was für eine Zeit, in was für ein Kamus Lechus, wir darf das nutzen zu jedem Menschen, die Fnei Atzmai, was in der jeder Mensch ist ein Lelo Molle, und wir können nicht verlassen sich auf Kloli. Wir darf beidig sein, und beidig sein bis Shimas Le, und bis Ewer Ponim Jofis, dem Cheli, die Fnei Atzmai, was noch kommen Kiveya sein, dem Eifen von der Rappe, und wie bald das hat Kufa Chadosha, und zusammen, was sie hat, Blochis Chadoshis oder Fuis Chadoshis, hat sie der Einloch Kolje, Shei Meruba Michel Chavere, wie die Gemorre sagt, in Sof Seite, Besseretzer, als Achonis zu Ichwese, der Mishiche, Isman Hagolus, is a demot pasmin zu, me muss haben, Davke der Fuhr Chadosho, onnebendig von Teiro, me Vio, der Fuhr Loelon, a Chidush Lecheiro. Aber der Chidush ist geworden, a Rob gekommen, ist Galle geworden. Durch Hatal mit Vossi, bewähle das Muftach in Teiras Emes, a das Nemmer Lemeshe Missime. Weil der Chidush von der Reino sehr, was nicht der Reino, der Rebbe, der Schwerert mit Galle gewählt. Die Zakone, welche was gefiet noch, die Chidis Gula kam aus Mal Liefnisse, die soll lernen, die Parshas HaShavua, in Yemei HaShavua, und in dem Gufe, den nächsten Tag bis Shavua, von Ascholos HaSedre, bis Sheni, weil der Se, bei Yema Sheni, von Sheni, bis Shlishi, weil der Se in die Jomim Shelifnisse, und wie jeder Linien in Limud Atero, ist auch Limud Atrevi sein wie die Meise, und der Pisgam HaYutur, was Nissi der Reino hat übergegeben, von dem alten Reben, aber es soll leben mit der Zeit, mit der Tchelik Petero, was bim Juchat verbunden mit der Zeit.
As we saw in this video, as mentioned before, The Rebbe tells us about a disease that's going to be coming to this world and how we should prepare ourselves for it. Should we rely on doctors? 100%. We definitely have to rely on doctors. It is part of Judaism that we do our due diligence in treating ourselves, doctors, nurses, taking medication, following advice, instructions from the CDC and other medical boards, without a doubt. But as we hear from the Rebbe, that is not sufficient. When there is an added portion of a virus that is coming into this world, that is destroying lives, God forbid, as this COVID-19 has been doing before our own eyes, there is something that is very clear. Whether we believe it or not, whether we're ready to accept it or not, there is one major transformation that this world around us has experienced. And that is that until this COVID-19, I think the average person out there, whether he or she spelled it or not, the average person out there felt literally invincible. The average person out there felt that we have what it takes to overcome any and every calamity that can, God forbid, befall us in our lives, whether it is our money, our intelligence, our knowledge, our sophistication, our PhDs, our degrees, our studies, whatever it is, we can overcome it. And I think what is so powerful, what we see, and I can't tell you how many people I've heard this from in the last week or two, people literally feel powerless. They don't know what to do. Last week, a member of my congregation who used to live here in Salt Lake, who has since relocated to the East Coast to be a member of the faculty of an Ivy League medical college, called me last week, and I asked him, how do you feel about it, where you are? And he said to me, Rabbi, there's one thing that we feel, and that is powerless. We have no clue how to battle this, how to overcome it. And so the Rebbe is telling us something fascinating. In addition, of course, to following medical orders, medical instructions, medical guidelines, social distancing, which literally saves lives, keeping 6 feet away from anyone if we have to go outside, of course, not attending services as we have not been doing here, but all of that, as important as it is, it's not enough. The Rebbe tells us we have to do more. It becomes our duty at this difficult time in our history to acknowledge the fact that there is someone, if you don't want to relate to it as God, let us relate to it as Borei Olam, the creator of this world. There is a creator of the world who has given us, as the sages say, the most precious commodity, the most precious entity that his creator had, which is the Torah. He gave it to us, and he's asking us one thing. Study this Torah. Expose yourself to the Torah. Read the Torah. As we just heard from the words of the Rebbe, every Torah portion, no matter when it's read during the year, is divided into 7 sections corresponding to the 7 days of the week. Let us resolve, each and every one of us, to take from every week Sunday. Today's Sunday. Today we start reading the first section of next week's Torah portion. There are many publications. You can have it online. You can go to Chabad.org and type in daily study session of Torah. There is apps. There are resources available that can empower each and every one of us to connect him or herself with the secrets, with the resources, with the energy of the Torah that ultimately, in addition, of course, to all the medical resources that are available to us, as the Rebbe explained to us, is going to empower us to once and forever overcome this evil virus and remove it from our midst and stop this plague from happening. I would like to share with you something that I found very, very interesting, especially on this auspicious day of the 11th of Nissan. In the Ashrei prayer that we recite every morning and every afternoon at Mincha, if you need a prayer book with English translation, please let me know. I'll be happy to provide one for you. There is a prayer called the Ashrei, composed by King David, that starts with each verse, with each letter of the alphabet, skipping the letter Nun, which would otherwise have to talk about the Nefilah, the downfall of the Jewish people, which King David did not want to address. There is a verse in the Ashrei prayer, and I'll say it in Hebrew. Karov Adonai lechol kore'av lechol asher yikra'u be'emet. God is close to all those who call out to him, to all those that call out to him in truth. Friends, the calling out in Hebrew is the word korav. Korav, those who call him. In Hebrew, calling him would be the Hebrew word koro, call on him. And in Hebrew, we have the word na. Na means please. And so this evil virus that we have in our midst, that by divine providence has been called corona virus. Think about it for a moment, what it means. In my home language, in my birth language of Italian, a corona represents a crown. In Italian and in Spanish, a crown is known as a corona. God is telling us this virus called the corona reaches God's very crown, the essence of God's kingdom over this world. And God says, you want to overcome this virus? Korona. Please call out on God. Please realize that we are as intelligent, as sophisticated, as well educated as we are. And I would never, God forbid, diminish the importance of obtaining an education. But we have reached now the time that we have to go beyond that. We have to call out. Korona. Call out on him. Start your days in the morning when you get out of bed, before you even take on your day. At the very beginning of the prayer book, there is a prayer that is supposed to be recited 365 days a year by every single woman, every single man, every single child, every single senior. It says the word Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai vekayam, she'echezarta bi nishmati, bechemla rabba emunatecha. I offer thanks to you, O God, living and eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. We are to begin our day with acknowledgement that we are taking on a day, but we are living that day in a world that was created by a master of the universe who has placed us in this world with a very specific mission. If any of us goes to bed tonight, and I wish that on every single one of you that's listening here tonight, and some people will go to bed tonight and not make it till tomorrow morning. For those of us that with God's help will go to sleep tonight, and tomorrow morning we're going to open our eyes. Please acknowledge it's not just a random occurrence. It's another day. It's April the 6th. I'm still here. Tomorrow morning, when we open our eyes and our heart is beating and it's pushing blood in our system, that has to be validated. It has to be acknowledged. Thus the prayer, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai vekayam, she'echezarta bi nishmati bechemla, rabba emunatecha. Your faithfulness is great. Now let me ask you a question. Who should be faithful? We in God or God in us. And every single morning, we acknowledge that if God is granting us another day of life, it is because God is faithful. God has faith in us. God loves us. God needs us in this world to transform this world into a godly abode. And with that, let me share a message that is perhaps one of the most favorite verses in the entire Torah. As the Jewish nation travels towards the promised land of Israel, they first have to go through, of course, the Yam Suf, the Red Sea. And we find a verse in the Torah that as the Jewish people come and they see the Red Sea in front of them, which is as wet as any sea, no, Moses or the Ten Commandments or Charlton Heston or the Prince of Egypt don't have it exactly correct. When Moses and 3 million people came to the Sea of Reeds, the Sea of Reeds was as wet as any sea. And the nation is coming there, watching the sea before them. And they turn to Moses. And at that moment, the Medrash tells us, the Jewish nation became fragmented into 4 groups. One group said, you know what? This is the end. God tricked us. God was just making fun of us. He took us out of Egypt, but the Egyptians are here pursuing us with weapons, which we don't have. We can go ahead because the ocean is there. So one group of Jews said, let us practice mass suicide. Let us drown ourselves in the ocean, but let us not give the satisfaction to the Egyptians to kill us. Another group said, let's pray. Maybe we need to pray to God. Another group said, let's surrender to the Egyptians. Let us wave our white flag and surrender to the Egyptians. And let us return to Egypt and be slaves unto Pharaoh as we had been for the last 210 years. The fourth group said, no, let's take them on. Let's fight the Egyptians. And in a beautiful verse in the Torah, there are 4 words that God says to Moses. Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'yisau. Sorry, 5 words. God says to Moses, Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'yisau. Speak to the children of Israel and tell them to journey ahead. Move ahead. This is not the time to stop what you're doing and pray. This is not the time, God forbid, to practice mass suicide and drown yourselves in the ocean. This is not the time to return to Egypt, and this is not the time to take on the Egyptians. This is the time to do one thing. Continue your journey to where you're headed, which is towards the promised land of Israel. And that's what they did. They continued their journey towards the promised land of Israel. And our sages tell us that Nachshon, the son of Aminadav, was the first one to get his feet wet into the waters of the sea. And at that moment, when the water reached his chin, and he was still marching ahead, undeterred from whatever was happening, at that moment, the sages tell us, the sea split. Friends, I cannot tell you how many people have reached out to me wondering, Rabbi, what is going on? What does God want from us? What should we do? What should we do? We have no answer. We have no hope. We have no vision. We have no powers. What should we do? There is an answer to that. It's in 5 words, friends, from our eternal Torah. Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'yisau. Speak to the children of Israel and let them journey. Remember that every single one of us finds him or herself in this world with a very specific mission. And the mission is to transform this world from a godless abode, God forbid, into a godly abode. How? through the study of the Torah and the performance of the mitzvot, the performance of the commandments. And that is why every single day there are approximately 7 or 8 or 9 billion people walking this earth. We as Jews don't believe that this world was created only for the Jewish people, that only Jews have a mission, that only Jews have hope, that if you're not Jewish, you're doomed, God forbid. Absolutely not. We as Jews believe that if you're Jewish, it is your mission to be discharged, to transform this world from a selfish to a selfless, and from a godless to a godly abode. How? If you're Jewish, by following the 613 mitzvot that can be found in the Torah. What if you're not Jewish? Are you a second-class citizen? Are you a loser? Are you meaningless? Absolutely not. And the Rebbe went on for decades upon decades to tell us that it is the duty, the obligation of every single Jew to reach out to the world population and teach non-Jews, teach Gentiles, teach people around us what is known as the 7 Noahide laws, the 7 laws of Noah that God gave to Noah upon exiting the ark after the universal flood, and to teach him how to inspire, how to transform the world around him into a godly abode. That is what it is our mission. Daber el bnei Yisrael ve'yisau. Speak to the children of Israel and let them journey. We have to journey, we have to do that which we're created for. Let us resolve on this day when all of us are so worried. How are we going to overcome COVID-19? Let me start by telling you how we're not going to overcome COVID-19. Hoarding toilet paper, hoarding bottles of water, hoarding powdered milk. It is great. It's an easy thing to do, to go to a grocery store. Well, now it's not an easy thing to do anymore. But that was not the way how we were going to do it. We all thought, we're all accustomed to easy fixes. Well, there's the COVID-19. I have to demonstrate to myself that I am in power. And how am I going to do that? By hoarding 250 rolls of toilet paper, or bottles of water, or powdered milk, or Lysol, or boxes of pasta in my home. Hashem is telling us, look a little deeper. Realize for a moment what your mission is in life and what you were sent to this world for. To transform this world, each and every one of us, by doing each and every one of us our little bit at a time, to transform and make this place, this world, the godly abode that it was meant to be, and that is our privilege. It is our purpose. It is our individual mission in life for each and every one of us to be God's partner in continuing to refine this world that God created and entrusted us with through the study of the Torah, the performance of the mitzvot, and by educating first and foremost ourselves, our families around us, the community around us, the cities around us, the states and the countries around us, and ultimately the world around us, by educating people and teaching how every single one of them has a role, and that is to transform this world that we live in into a godly abode. We're going to have tonight, in a few moments, interact with for several years right now. In fact, it's been about 12 years now, in 2008, that a great leader of our state, and a great friend of mine, John Huntsman Jr., has reached out to me and has offered to host the very first public menorah lighting in the governor's mansion in Salt Lake City, in downtown Salt Lake City. Some of you were present. We had some beautiful events at the governor's mansion. With God's help, we outgrew the governor's mansion, and in the recent years, the lighting of the menorah, on most years, the first night of Hanukkah, has been taking place at the Utah State Capitol under the rotunda, the most prestigious place in the state of Utah. Our sages tell us that when Moses sent out the 12 spies from the desert of Sinai to the land of Israel for a period of 40 days to scout the land of Israel, one of the spies, namely Caleb, at the very beginning of this mission, had smelled a rat, as we say, that something was not going to be going right about this. And so our sages tell us it is brought down in the Talmud that as they traveled from the desert of Sinai into the land of Israel, Caleb himself social distanced himself, in today's language, a little more than 6 feet. He separated himself for a short period of time from the remaining 11 colleagues. And where did he go? He went to the holy city of Hebron in the land of Israel to beseech the matriarchs, the holy matriarchs, and the holy patriarchs of Israel that he not get caught in to the evil plot of this mission. It has now been a tradition amongst the Jewish people for thousands upon thousands of years to visit the grave of holy people. Some people visit the grave of parents, grandparents, other ancestors. In general, visiting the grave of tzaddikim, of the righteous. It is a very common visit in Israel to go to the tombstone of Mother Rachel in Bethlehem to beseech her that she plead on our behalf before God, that God deliver us from any plague and any illness and any threat. In our country, there are literally thousands and thousands of people that visit what is known nowadays simply as the Ohel. Ohel in Hebrew means a tent or a little building that is surrounding the burial place, the resting place of the Rebbe, the late Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who on March the 1st of 1992, within the last 24 hours before suffering his debilitating stroke that ultimately led to his passing in 1994, the Rebbe established Chabad of Utah. I was there. I had the privilege to be standing before the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gave me a blessing that my mission should be blessed with immense and tremendous success. This was March the 1st of 92. On March the 2nd of 92, the Rebbe suffered his stroke at the Ohel while visiting the resting place of his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe. He was there beseeching his father-in-law that his father-in-law intercede on behalf of the multitude of people from all walks of life beyond Judaism that were writing notes to the Rebbe. The Rebbe would take all his notes to his father-in-law's resting place. The Rebbe collapsed at the Ohel in the afternoon of March the 2nd of 1992, suffered a very serious stroke, which ultimately led to his passing 2 years later on June the 12th of 1994. Ever since the Rebbe's passing, the Ohel, as the Rebbe's burial place is now known amongst people, has become a place where thousands of visitors pay a pilgrimage to on a daily basis. It is open 24 hours a day. You have people that are Jewish, people that are observant, people that are secular Jewish, people that are not Jewish, of all walks of life, that they realize, they understand, they internalize the greatness of the Rebbe's contribution to this world, both the Jewish world and beyond. And they visit the Rebbe's resting place, and they bring the request for a blessing, that the Rebbe intercede on their behalf before the Creator, the Master of the universe. I myself had the privilege in 2012, 8 years ago, to accompany our former governor, Governor Jon Huntsman, and his wife, Mary Kay, with their escort, their delegation, and I brought him to the Ohel. Governor Huntsman, Ambassador Huntsman, had just announced his candidacy to run for president, and I offered him to accompany him to the Ohel to pray at the Rebbe's resting place. And so I've asked former U.S. ambassador to Russia and former governor of the state of Utah, Jon M. Huntsman, if you please be so kind and joining on this gathering with us this evening and perhaps share his experience while visiting the Ohel. Governor Huntsman, are you here yet? Should be arriving any second right now. I'm told that he is typing our Zoom meeting. He's trying to link in, and he should be with us momentarily. I would like to encourage each and every one of you, please take this address. If you please log on to your computers, on your smartphones, whenever you have a moment, to jewishutah.com. Here's the governor. Good evening, Ambassador. Good evening, Governor. A pleasure to have you here with us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I just shared with the people on this meeting about our experience together at the Ohel. Before you say a few words, I would just like to give people the address of the site where they can look up about the Ohel when they can send their prayers. It is www.jewishutah, JEWISHUTAH.com/Ohel, OHEL. By all means, please realize that we need now more than ever God's blessings. We need the Rebbe to intercede on our behalf before the Almighty God to bring about a salvation to the entire world, literally, during this most difficult times. And it is with that that I would like to, I'm honored and humbled to welcome you, Governor Ambassador Huntsman.
Well, Rabbi Zippel, it's a great pleasure to be with you. And you know better than to call me any title at all. You know that my name is John, and my favorite title is Dad. And right now, I'm putting forth every effort I can to be a good dad and a good granddad, because I've got several of our kids who are here under one roof, along with 7 grandkids. And it's a time of anxiety and uncertainty without a whole lot of answers, because no one has lived through this kind of pandemic. And the experts whom we are most grateful for, those in the area of public health, and those who are stocking the shelves of stores and keeping supply lines open, we are very, very grateful for. And we pray for them in every way that we can. But Benny, I just want to thank you for being such a great friend over the years. I want to thank you again for praying at my inauguration, my second inauguration as governor in 2008, and the spirit that you brought to that setting. It meant a lot to me. And the fact that you took me to Israel in 2009, which for me changed my view of a lot of things, being in such a holy place with a history that you helped me understand. I had read, of course, and studied and based on my own religious traditions, but having you there, Benny, was an extraordinary opportunity. And then in 2011, you took me to the Ohel, which I hadn't heard much of before, but it was one of these things that was life transforming for me. And I would highly recommend those who were part of this link up to write a letter to the Ohel, to find time in your busy lives to visit, because I suspect that it will have the same impact on you that it did on me. And a lot of it is the spirit and the ethos that Rebbe Schneerson brings to the surroundings. It's, of course, the Rebbe, the seventh Chabad rabbi, passed away, as I heard Benny discuss his stroke in 1992 and ultimately passed in 1994. And of course, he would frequent the Ohel to visit his father-in-law, Rebbe Yitzhak, and he's buried right there next to him. But you can't visit the Ohel without having and developing a further understanding of the Rebbe and his life's journey. And I understood more of that when I served as the United States ambassador to Russia, where, of course, the Rebbe was born during the era of the Russian Empire. Today it would be considered part of Ukraine. But he was part of the movement and the transformation, ultimately, of Chabad from Russia to Poland, and in the post-war period, then on to Brooklyn. And it's a marvelous story and history of a transformational leader who brought Chabad to the world with a focus on religious, social, and humanitarian needs. And you feel that spirit when you were there at the Ohel. In fact, Benny Zippel has so many great admirers around the world who are part of Chabad. I haven't been anywhere, literally, where I've spent a period of time without having the local rabbi come to knock on my door, always a friend of Rabbi Zippel's. When I was in Moscow, of course, it was Rabbi Lazard, who is a close friend of Rabbi Zippel's, who was there. And so I feel, in a sense, that I've very much been part of Rabbi Zippel's family, the Chabad Utah family and the broader Chabad family. But it really all kind of reached a crescendo when I was able to visit the Ohel and participate in the traditions there, which are quite unique, in writing a letter right at the very outset, pouring out my heart on issues that were most sacred and meaningful to me. There was the health and the well-being of my loved ones, 2 sons who were entering active duty military service, and a lot of things that were on my mind. And then ultimately going to where we could actually write down a prayer on a slip of paper and put it into the Ohel, which is a tradition there. And the enormous strength and the comfort that I felt during a time in my life, whereas Benny mentioned, we were in a run for the presidency of the United States, which I would never recommend to any sane person out there. And once you've tried that, you would never do it again. But there were a lot of emotions going in our lives, a lot of stress and pressure on us during that kind of campaign. We, of course, have a large and very active family, and I cared deeply about them. But the visit to the Ohel, thanks to Rabbi Zippel, was probably the most peaceful and reassuring experience that I've had in my recent life. But it also opened the door to the Rebbe to be able to learn more about his life and the examples of service and love and hard work and leadership that were on display during his years as the 7th Chabad Rebbe. So Benny, I thank you for that opportunity. I thank you for your friendship. And it's such an honor for the Huntsman Foundation to be part of your to you, Benny, and that is greatly appreciated. So I want to thank you for that and tell you that we will always be with you to help, as you have always been with us. in moments that have been most important in our lives. So I thank you for that. I have somebody who, because it is the Rebbe's birthday, April 5th, 1902, as I recall. And I would like to introduce you, Rabbi Zippel, if it would be okay, to my granddaughter. Come on over here.
Would love that.
Yes, because it's my granddaughter Harper's birthday today.
Oh,
And my granddaughter, my son-in-law is Jewish, and Harper was blessed not so long ago and given a Hebrew name. So I call her Shoshi. Her Hebrew name is Shoshana. I call her Shoshi for short. And Shoshi turned 2 today, and I explained, of course, to her parents about the connection with Rebbe Schneerson and his birthday. And Shoshi doesn't understand that, of course, but I think at some point she will. And probably at some point she'll be able to visit the Ochel as well. So Rabbi Zippel, I'm most grateful for the few moments you've given to me and and to Shoshi. And we love you. We love you so much, Shoshi. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. And for all that you've done for us and for all you do for the state. And thank you so much for having me on for a few moments.
John, first of all, thank you very much for coming on. I can't tell you how much it means to me. Just to give you one little secret from grandfather to grandfather.
Please.
If you think you're getting away for your granddaughter's birthday with a kiss, think again.
I know better than that. I know better than
expecting
that.
a lot more than that. Friends,
I know better than that.
I would like to wish you, may God fulfill all your heart's desire. May God keep yourself, your family, and your loved ones out of harm's way. And may God bless you and your family be blessed with much tranquility, inner peace, longevity, and serenity throughout your entire life. Thank you very much for coming on. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Rabbi Zippel. It's a pleasure to be your friend. And thank you for the love and the service you provide.
Thanks again. Friends, as we close this event tonight, I want me to close with a very, very quick thought. I cannot tell you how many people I hear from that are asking, when are we going to go back to where we were? Allow me to share a little secret with you. We are not going back, ever. Ever, ever, ever. There is only one direction to go from here, and that direction is called forward. The biggest piece of glass in a vehicle is the front windshield, not the side windows or the rear window. It is the front windshield. And the reason for that is because, as important as it is to look around us and to look behind us, it is the most important to look forward. And so allow me to ask you for one request on this auspicious day of the 11th of Nissan, the Rebbe's 118th birthday. The number 118 is very special. 100 is completion. It is 10 times 10. 18, we know what 18 is in the world, in Hebrew, in Judaism. 18 represents life, chai. Today is a birth of the Rebbe, which is 118. It is life to the most ultimate level of completion. Let each and every one of us resolve that starting today yet, on the 118th birthday of the Rebbe, let us take upon ourselves one new mitzvah, one new ritual, one new good deed. Let us pledge to reach out to a fellow person who we didn't reach out to until now. Let us pick up the phone, pick up the email, pick up the messages, reach out to a fellow person and simply ask him or her, how are you? How are you doing? What can I do for you? That will make this world a better place. Let us resolve to renew our dedication, our commitment to the study of the Torah. And let each and every one of us realize that this period of quarantine that we're in is not a punishment. God is not banishing us from the world. It is simply the contrary. It is that when we are always focused on being outside, we very often neglect to look inwardly into ourselves. Who am I? Am I living up to my mission in life? Am I living up to my purpose in life? Am I fully discharging what God created me for in this world? Let us use out this period known as quarantine of inwardness, of being simply in our homes, in our own private spaces, and let us use out this time to not get distracted and look at ourselves inwardly and get to know ourselves. I would like to end with a prayer beseeching the Almighty God to bring about true and complete healing for this terrible virus that has befallen our people for several days right now. If you do have a prayer book in front of you or book of Psalm, please open to Psalm number 20. We're going to recite it together. Psalm number 20. Please repeat after me. We're going to read it in Hebrew and in English. Lamnatseach mizmor leDavid. Yancha Adonai beyom tzara, yisagevcha Shem Elohei Yaakov. Yishlach ezrecha mikodesh umitzion yisadeka. Yiskor kol minchotecha, veolatcha yedash nesela. Yiten lecha chilevavecha, vechol atzatcha yemale. Neranena bishuatecha, uveshem Eloheinu nidgol. Yemale Adonai kol mishalotecha. Ata yadati, ki yoshia Adonai meshicho, yaneyu mishmei kodsho, bigvurot yesha yemino. Eile v'rechev, ve'eile v'susim, v'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu nazkir. Hei makaru v'nafalu, v'anachnu kamnu v'nitodad. Adonai Yoshia HaMelech Yaneinu, v'yom koreinu. Please join me in reciting it in the English language. Psalm number 20 in English. I'd like to thank my son Chaim for being such an outstanding IT engineer. Psalm number 20 in English. For the choir master, a psalm by David. May the Lord answer you on the day of distress. May the name of the God of Jacob fortify you. May send your help from the sanctuary and support you from Zion. May remember all your offerings and always accept favorably your sacrifices. May grant you your heart's desire and fulfill your every counsel. We will rejoice in your deliverance and raise our banners in the name of our God. May the Lord fulfill all your wishes. Now I know that the Lord has delivered his anointed one, answering him from his holy heavens with a mighty saving power of his right hand. Some rely upon chariots and some upon horses, but we rely upon and invoke the name of the Lord our God. They bend and fall, but we rise and stand firm. Lord, deliver us. May the King answer us on the day we call. Please take the address for the Ohel once again. It is www.jewishutah.com/Ohel. May the Almighty God keep all of you and your loved ones out of harm's way. May God grant all of you the most incredible Passover ever. I know it's not going to be a very large one with big sedarim, a more intimate one, a more inward one, a one that will give you a chance to reflect about your true self. And most of all, as this holiday of Passover is known as the time of our liberation, may each and every one of us, both individually and collectively, experience true and complete liberation on this auspicious holiday of Passover from anything that's troubling us. Thank you very much for joining me and have a nice evening. Yeah. Close it. Okay.